Okay, so this is WhistlinDiesel, aka Cody Detweiler, who was arrested for tax evasion last month, but in these two videos has maintained his innocence. He made this video right after it happened, in which he said that it was all basically a witch hunt, and in this follow-up video that we're also going to look at, we're going to look at both, he continues to say that they're trying to silence him and that he has not committed any kind of crime. Rather, they're trying to make an example out of them. Now, a couple of things we got to get out of the way. First, there is a big elephant in the room. Cody WhistlinDiesel was the subject of a Coffeezilla investigation video. This one here, it's got 3.2 million views. It's called YouTuber Proves People Are Lazy with Day Trading. Coffeezilla is a small indie channel. Maybe you've heard of him, but this is what he had to say about it. We're just going to watch the intro to his video.
Tried proving people are lazy by turning $10,000 into $1 million, but he accidentally ended up embarrassing himself instead and promoted a guru who we're going to be exposing today.
We could be doing hard labor, but instead the idea is mentality, success, and money.
The YouTuber is WhistlinDiesel. He has 10 million subscribers, and his name is Cody. His channel's motto, never ever clickbait ever. So you can imagine I'm pretty excited about this video because look at that title. He's gonna prove people
turning 10K into 1 million to prove people are lazy.
People are lazy with a series showing people that hate money how truly possible it is to make money. Let's dive in and find out from the guy who never clickbaits how exactly that's gonna work.
Now, a lot of people, specifically on Reddit, are assuming that he's guilty because he promoted this guy who is Alex, who turned out to be kind of a Forex trading scammer. And Cody actually never did a follow-up on his channel. That was called episode 1, where it was going to be a series where I presume he showed either other people that were also doing this kind of thing or continuing to show Alex allegedly turning $10,000 into $1 million over and over. But that never happened. That was the one episode. Coffee made this investigation video. Cody denied that anything bad or sketchy was going on, but then he stopped making any other videos about it and ended the series there. Also, I just want to say that this concept of everyone is lazy is so stupid, and it's such obvious rage bait for views. Do you remember this video from this Sebastian somebody guy?
And you don't have a Lamborghini, you should actually sit down and have like a serious discussion with yourself as to why you don't have a Lambo.
Yep.
Because I realize now that it's so incredibly easy and there's so much money out there, and 200 grand relative to what is out there in circulation and what you can grab, especially now with AI tools that you can leverage like never before, 200 grand is chump change.
I mean, the contempt for poor people is just wild. It's also worth noting that this guy, Sebastian, somebody, I don't remember his last name, claims that he was rags to riches guy who has made millions of dollars, but there's not a single independent third-party news organization of any kind that has verified any of those claims. I made a really good faith effort to look and see if I could find anybody that was like, yeah, his parents were immigrants, came over with nothing, and he worked his way up from having, nothing in his life to feed off of. That's a commendable story, even if he did turn out to be a shitty person. Go back to WhistlinDiesel. This Reddit post was where I first saw this said, WhistlinDiesel got arrested for tax evasion. Diesel claims he never received any notice beforehand that he owed money and believes that he was arrested to use so that he could be used as a scare tactic for other people. And then the top comments are, yeah, I don't believe him. The last few months he was asking for free labor, which is true, and did a weird crypto sponsor, which was part of that Coffeezilla investigation. Seems like he blew a lot of his money. Yep. If anyone is on the fence with this guy, go see his interaction with Coffeezilla. This caricature of an adult puts up an act of stupidity to a degree only a little child would think was convincing, and now they are using scare tactics against him. Must be that dollar rhetoric when you have an audience that is primarily young, male, and impressionable. The future thanks you, you weasel. Next comment. I feel like I recall Coffeezilla saying this name. Did he expose him for anything? Yeah, a lot of people are assuming because he did this sketchy Forex scammer video that he's also guilty of tax evasion. And I'm not saying those two are entirely unrelated or that sentiment is entirely untrue or unfounded, but I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt here and look at those as completely separate instances. On the one hand, he did the sketchy Forex thing, but that does not automatically mean that he is guilty of tax evasion and deserves to be arrested and fined or potentially jailed for it. One doesn't necessarily influence the other, and so I want to treat them as entirely disparate events. But anyway, this is not a video about Reddit. We are going to dive right into his first video called I got arrested for quote-unquote tax evasion. I think it's so funny that he put it in quotes because that's what the indictment and the investigative report says. So he was arrested for tax evasion. Whether or not he actually did it still remains to be decided in the court of law. So I'm going to be skipping around to the important part, including cutting out the entire intro because he doesn't really say anything that he's not going to repeat later. So we're going to start here at 2:13, where he talks about the cops showing up to his place and actually arresting it. And I'm just going to let the whole scene play out so that you can see what is going on here.
So they have a warrant for tax evasion. Of course, I have no clue what this is for. They won't explain why. I had not gotten a letter, a text, an email, a notice in the mail. Nobody got the slightest bit of notice what this could have been for. And I didn't even find out for several days after I was arrested. So yeah, we have everything on camera. I'll play the video here so you guys can be caught up and see what happened.
Now, it is an important note that I think he actually didn't get any noticed, but that's because the prosecutors were building a case against him. If you are having a case built against you for a crime, you don't get a notice of that crime. It's like if you rob a store and then later the prosecutors show up to your house to arrest you for having robbed the store. It's not like they're going to send a notice in the mail saying, hey, here's the amount you stole and here's the damages, just go ahead and pay it back. No, they're going to show up, arrest you after having built a case against you, and then charge you legally for what you did. And that's a really important point because that does come up a lot, but he continues to say, nobody told me this was happening. I didn't know I was being investigated. I am a victim of a kind of witch hunt, or they're trying to make an example out of me. So that's going to come up a lot. Just bear that in mind. The reason they didn't tell him was because it was a criminal investigation, not a civil investigation. Civil investigations, you tend to get notices from the IRS or the Department of Revenue.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, well, they're out of the warrant. What's this for?
I don't know. Is there a reason why?
Is this a joke? No, these you guys are agents with the state. They'll explain it to you.
Okay.
I think it's so funny that they're all so YouTube brain that when police show up with a warrant to arrest them in police cars in full body armor, they just assume it's a prank for content. You have got to have a safe word if you're working in a group like this. Like, hey, if I say the cops are showing up, it's probably a prank. If I say broccoli, the cops are showing up, then like broccoli is the safe word and that means it's serious. No pranks are allowed when you say the safe word.
No, yeah. What's the paper? Is that the warrant? Yeah.
No. Well, he has a warrant. This is a criminal summons.
Okay.
Out of circuit court.
What is this for?
This is for tax evasion.
Okay.
Can I see that?
Who are you?
The COO of the company.
Is that what this whole thing is for? Tax
Give him his copy. If he wants to give it to this guy, that's cool. 401.
Are you cool with him shutting that on your?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's what this is about.
The sheriff's department has this for the company, WhistlinDiesel, or whatever your company is called. But the
He's like, whatever your company is called. Like, you know, it's a real company, right? Like, even if he did commit tax evasion, because he's a YouTuber, doesn't mean it's not a company. That's a really weird line to draw. But it is worth noting, it gets kind of, they talk over each other a bit, but they're basically two warrants. The first is by, like, the county, I think, which is for the company committing tax evasion. And then the second is from the sheriff's office or something like that, specifically for him having committed tax evasion. So that's why there are two sets of people and two warrants being served.
state agents have warrants for you individually.
Oh, so there's other stuff.
I got it backwards. It's the other way around. But there's one warrant for the company, one warrant for him. Or sorry, one charge for the company, one warrant for him.
Yeah.
But it's same stuff.
It's both
but
tax evasion.
Oh, okay.
it's for you as an individual and the LLC.
Okay, the cuffs are tightened up. Are you unlocking those or tightening them up?
I'm putting them where they want tightened more.
Okay.
Wait, is this a joke? Are you
No,
guys?
it's not
know.
joking on now.
This is legitimate.
I just paid like dollars to IRS, so.
This is state, not federal.
Oh, just say.
This is also a really important distinction that'll come up more. This is the state charging him with tax evasion, not the federal government. With the federal government, they probably actually would have charged him and then just garnished his wages. Fun fact, the Internal Revenue Service is the only legal entity that can garnish your wages without a court order. Fun fact of the day. That's why you should always pay your taxes, please, and thank you. But this is the state of Tennessee charging him.
State, yes.
This is county, and it's from Williams County. That's what we're serving. They're with the state. They're serving something completely different. We're just
Wait,
escorting
what's
them up
the
there.
completely different one?
No, it's the same.
Or
case,
they're
but-
both tax evasion.
Yeah, it's tax evasion. It's for you personally and for the company.
Okay.
The Department of Revenue.
Not federal.
No, state.
It's all state.
The Tennessee Department of Revenue got indictments against you as an individual and the LLC.
Not sure what this is for, but they say it's tax evasion. I just paid like dollars to IRS in the last 2 years, so we've made regular payments. So I'm not sure what this is about. So we'll see what it's for.
Mr. Detweiler, what this is it's state, not federal.
Okay, right.
So it has nothing to do with the IRS.
see.
You have a bond that was set by the judge at $20,000. Okay.
Have they tried contacting me about this? Because I haven't.
They contacted us today and asked us to come out here and assist them with serving the warrant,
So
which
this
is
is for
why
20.
the sheriff's office is
So this is
here.
for 20 grand.
No, the bond is 20 grand.
Oh, I see.
I don't know what the amount is.
You could be out in the next few hours, just according to how quick the jail can get you processed.
see.
Okay, where's he going now?
Williamson County Jail on Century Court.
4 weeks.
No,
I mean, you guys
it's
can
408
all the way
Century
to
Court.
the road.
Just
or-
meet him
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You want someone to open the gate and you pull up?
Okay.
It'll take a few hours,
All
so
right.
just be
Just
patient.
walk
Okay.
with us, I guess.
Get our steps in for the day.
Now, he's obviously upset, but I appreciate that he's not like mad at them personally or going after them. It's like a don't shoot the messenger type situation. They are not the ones charging him. They are just the ones that are fulfilling their legal obligation to go pick up the people that the state prosecutors say that they need to go pick up. So as he's being arrested and put in the car, he goes on, he's just like talking about it, just talking about the experience generally, but we get to more of the why here at 10:45. And I just keep looking over at my other monitor because that's where my notes are. 10:45 is when he talks about why he was arrested.
So you may be wondering what all this is for, why 5 cops showed at my door and arrested me after having a clean record. This is for sales tax on one car, my Ferrari, that doesn't exist anymore. It's in a cube because it accidentally caught on fire. Not even in Tennessee, it caught on fire in Texas. That's what this is about. Not a letter, not a notice, not anything saying, hey, you owe the sales tax on this car, nothing. This is the Montana title, clean title, to my $400,000 Ferrari F8, which sales tax in Tennessee would be roughly $30,000 or something like that. And so this car, this Ferrari, was titled and registered in Montana.
This is the really important part. He's being arrested for evading taxes on this Ferrari that he bought from wherever he bought the Ferrari from and then registered. When you register a car, you have to pay taxes on it, and you have to pay those taxes to whatever state it was registered in. But he, along with a lot of rich people, probably almost all of them, is exploiting a very interesting loophole that is explained here. The Montana registration loophole is common among owners of expensive cars because the state doesn't charge sales tax, doesn't require emissions testing, and has cheap registration fees. It allows non-residents like WhistlinDiesel, who lives in Tennessee, to create LLCs based in the state and register cars to them. So you say, I don't own the car, the LLC owns the car, the LLC is in Montana, ergo the car gets registered in Montana. Using the loophole is technically illegal if you don't actually live or do business in Montana, which, to be clear, WhistlinDiesel does not. He does not have any kind of actual business dealings in Montana, and he does not live in Montana. Therefore, registering it in Montana and then using it in Tennessee is technically illegal according to Tennessee state law. But all it takes is a trip to any major car meet full of Montana plated vehicles to see that enforcement is almost non-existent, or at least almost non-existent right up until WhistlinDiesel has been arrested. And this is where I think his case starts to fall apart, because Cody doesn't live in Montana, nor does he do business in Montana. He solely has a shell corporation LLC that he registers his expensive cars under that is in Montana, but that is illegal to do if you don't actually have a business that functions in Montana, which, to be clear, he does not. He's in Tennessee. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's illegal, and that's why I think his argument might not be legally valid. And before you start to comment angrily, please just hear this absolute one argument. If you exit the video now, just listen to this one argument I have. I live in Ohio. My car drives on Ohio roads, and I pay for the use and maintenance of those roads with taxes. The thought that someone like WhistlinDiesel, who has a net worth of probably 100 or 1,000 times what I have, can drive a $400,000 car on those same roads that I'm using and not pay for it because he's rich is absolutely insane to me. I have to pay taxes and he doesn't because I am not rich and he's rich. That is insanity. We both drive on the same roads, but he gets to do it for free and I don't. Either neither of us pay taxes or we both pay taxes. There's no world in which the top 1% should be able to get free stuff because they're crazy rich, because they are the last people that need free stuff because they're crazy rich. Anyway, back to the video.
I should remind you, 85% of luxury car owners have a business in Montana.
And 90% of athletes are on performance-enhancing drugs. It doesn't make it any more legal just because of lots of people doing it. And most likely, he's not the only person that's been arrested for this. It's probably the state coming after several high-profile individuals to try and force everyone else out of fear to start registering in Tennessee instead.
There is an option to have a business in Montana that holds your assets, that is not you, it holds your assets in Montana, where you can run business out of, that just so happens to not require sales tax.
It's not just so happens, that's intentional for the state to make money. But the difference is, like he said, you have to actually run a business out of that place in Montana. You can't just have it sit there and hold assets and then live in another state with your assets that are being held from the Montana LLC. That is illegal. And to be clear, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a logical thinker that's Googled this. I don't have a vendetta against Cody from WhistlinDiesel, but this argument just doesn't make sense to me, because if you look at the law, Tennessee is very clear that if you have a car in their state and live in their state for 30 days, then you have to register the car. In fact, if you Google it, it's like the first thing that pops up. How long do I have to live in Tennessee before registering my car? The first real result here is a person who moves to Tennessee from another state should register their vehicle within 30 days of the move. It's the first result. Back to the video.
On specifically vehicles or luxury items, especially many luxury car owners have businesses in Montana. Currently, we are asking the state, what is the qualification for the amount of time that that vehicle would be in or operated out of Tennessee? considering the car burned down in Texas and it was traveling in other states while I owned it.
These are all good questions to ask. How long does the car have to be in the state? What are any other requirements around this that I should know? But these are also questions to ask before trying to exploit the loophole. If you don't know how long you need to keep it in your state or keep it out of the state so that you can legally register in Montana, then your accountant or tax lawyer, whoever advised you to do this, has failed you. Here's a little more. The problems with the Montana loophole arise when vehicles registered there run afoul of the laws in the state where those vehicles are actually kept and used, like Tennessee. For many states, once a vehicle is within its borders for 30 days, like we just saw, it legally needs to be registered and titled there, fees and all. Presumably it was more than 30 days from when he bought it. If you live, buy, and keep a vehicle in a state with sales tax, the sales tax must be paid. If you used a Montana LLC and drive your car on empty plates, then your state has missed out on tax revenue that could be going to roads, schools, parks, and other infrastructure. And it doesn't matter if you don't like taxes or not. I hate taxes. I think everybody hates taxes. But this is where the taxes go, and if it's the law, you have to follow it. Otherwise, you get arrested. He lives in Tennessee. He kept the Ferrari in Tennessee, and he also used the Ferrari primarily in Tennessee. I'm baffled that there are people defending a decamillionaire who is skirting taxes when they probably don't have the financial ability to be able to skirt those same taxes. Of all the people not to have sympathy for, it's the rich guy worth tens of millions of dollars who didn't pay $30,000 on a $400,000 car that he had. There are lots of other people you should have sympathy for. This guy is just not one of them.
Considering the amount of manpower they sent, the car doesn't exist anymore, the amount of money it's over, and the fact that there's pedophiles on the streets, the fact that there's people out there killing people. And that's quite alarming considering this country's in a desperate position to take care of important matters. Sorry, I'm gonna try to stay chill. It's actually angering. Like, I'm not mad that this is happening to me. I'm a YouTuber. I'm the best person this could have happened to, frankly, because this—
I dislike this there are other worse issues argument because there are always worse issues. That argument falls apart when you use it for any other scenario. By that logic, I should be able to shoplift from Walmart whenever I feel like it and not get arrested. Nobody should ever come after me for it because it was a small amount. It was only a few $100s in product, and there are far worse issues. There are killers on the streets right now. It's just a nonsensical argument of we can only address the absolute worst thing happening at any one time and everything else should just be let go. So he goes on to talk about how he can't believe that they didn't send a letter, and he thinks that they're trying to make an example out of him. And I think there are two issues with his concerns about that. The first is there's a difference when it's willful intent, which is a legal thing. And that's something that the state will have to prove, that he willfully and unlawfully avoided taxes, which is going to be a high bar. But I think him registering it in Montana with the LLC and then driving it in Tennessee seems like a pretty good argument that he willfully and then unlawfully avoided the sales tax. It's not like he forgot. They can probably prove that he set up an LLC in Montana that does nothing but registers his expensive cars. The second thing is that he says he thinks the state is trying to make an example of him, and I think he's actually probably right about that. Tennessee is very attractive to wealthy people because of how few taxes there are. There's no state income tax. So you can imagine that the state gets really angry when those same wealthy people that are moving there for the lower taxes then try and spend their time getting around the few taxes that they actually owe. If you have more people in your state, you need more money to maintain schools, roads, first responders, etc. But imagine the people move there, so you have to pay more to sustain that new population, and then they don't pay taxes. So you don't actually have any more money coming in to sustain those people. Well, that's a problem. My guess is that they're trying to make an example out of really high profile people who are doing this in the hopes that everyone in Tennessee doing it will hear about that because they're high profile, freak out, and start registering their cars in Tennessee instead of Montana. And he goes on to talk a bit more about how nobody ever sent him a letter or a notice or talked to him about this or what was going to happen. And I do, surprisingly, want to come to his defense a little bit here because this argument, purely on logic, not on legality, just on logic, actually kind of makes sense to me. It feels like it would be far cheaper and less resource intensive to send out a letter to everyone doing this and say, hey, we know that you have your expensive Tennessee cars registered in Montana. You have 30 days to register them in Tennessee, pay the taxes, pay the back taxes, pay any penalties you might have on it. Otherwise, we're going to arrest you. And then you get everybody. And I think that results in nobody getting charged, nobody getting imprisoned, and it's way, way cheaper because you don't have to spend a year putting together a case. To be fair, I think what he did is illegal, but the way it's being handled, I think would have been easier if you started making public announcements that, hey, starting in January 1st, we're going to start arresting people that are doing this. That way, everyone who's doing it will just pay their back taxes and penalties and not have to worry about it. So that was part one. Part two continues in this video here where he says they're trying to silence me. And two interesting developments take place here. The first is that the prosecutors issue what's called a gag request. And he's holding this up right here. And he says he's got court for it on Monday. But basically, this would legally force him to stop talking about the case. And the second is that he got a copy of the investigative report against him, which he shows the camera here. This is the copy of how they arrived at all the conclusions, what he's being being charged with, who they spoke to, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm not going to comment on the gag order too much. That's awfully legalese, and I understand there's some contention there about your First Amendment rights to free speech and that the government can't take those away. But then you've also got Sixth Amendment rights to the right to a fair trial, and if you talk about it and everyone knows about it, maybe they will have already picked a side before the trial even starts. So it's really dicey, and I'm going to let someone who's actually a lawyer talk about that. But I do get where he's coming from, where it seems kind of weird that he's not allowed to comment on a case when he's already been charged, the investigation is done. A gag order feels awfully extreme. I don't think at 10.3 million subscribers, he has enough influence to actually be able to make a jury make up their mind in his favor before it actually goes to trial. The rest of this "they're trying to silence me" video is pretty similar to what he said in the first one, restating that he was never contacted about this. Rather, the first he heard of it was when the cops showed up at his door, and basically he's claiming that he thought he was legally in the green and would have paid taxes to become compliant if the Department of Revenue had told him that he actually wasn't legally in the green and needed to pay that sales tax. And like I said before, this is more of a logical argument, but I do agree it makes sense logically to just send threatening letters to everyone that's doing this. But legally, I do think what he was doing was still wrong. But he ends this video with a message to the Tennessee Department of Revenue saying this.
So I understand your goal is to collect sales tax. I get it, that's your job. My job is to talk about you collecting the sales tax in this case. So I get we're at a little bit of a stalemate. I would prefer to not make these videos. I'm just being transparent with the public because this is America. They deserve to know what's going on with me when they see my mugshot online, and they deserve to know what's going on in the government. So America is for the people, and the people are the ones in charge. I don't have anything against you guys personally. I haven't seen your faces. I'm sure you're great people, and I know your job is to collect tax, but what better way to collect tax than to educate people on how to be in compliance? The pissing match does not work. America was founded by real people that value and protect freedoms, and I'm one of those people. If we want to keep playing this game, game on. If we can have a meeting and talk about this and figure out a way to educate people on what your guys' goal is, game on as well. I would love to work together, but just as the same reason my mugshot was public when I was arrested with 5 cops at my door, the public deserves to know why, and that's why I've made this video. So thank you everyone for watching.
And I think he's right and wrong there. I think he's right that he should be allowed to talk about this. I don't think he's going to taint a jury, and I think his First Amendment rights are more important than any potential jury tainting, because I really don't think that's going to happen. But I also think he's wrong in his implication, or I guess insinuation, that the government's job is to educate every person and make them aware of things. I think it's the government's job to make the laws and then make those laws available and accessible to anyone so that they can find everything they need to know around a tax law. And like I said before, if you just Google how long do I have to live in Tennessee before registering my car there, if you ignore all the AI slop, right there at the top, the very first result, you don't even need to click on it. It says within 30 days of the move. He was exploiting a tax loophole, which has very specific requirements about how you can exploit it, and he did not fulfill those requirements entirely, and now he's being charged for that. The last thing I want to say is throughout both of these videos, a couple times he says, if it happens to me, it can happen to you. If they did this to me, imagine what they're going to do to you. And I think that this is a terrible, terrible argument. There is basically no way that this is going to happen to you unless you are exploiting tax loopholes to skirt around state taxes, which is something essentially nobody does because almost no one has enough money to make it worthwhile or actually be able to do it. A good example of if it happens to me, it could happen to anyone would be, say, if police officers started ticketing every person that went over the speed limit, no matter how little. You're going 56 and a 55, boom, you get a $100 ticket for that 1 mile an hour over. That's a great example of if it happens to me, it could happen to you because almost everyone speeds. But saying if the government comes after my improperly exploited tax loophole where I got around $30,000 in taxes as a decamillionaire, it might happen to you. I mean, no, there are basically no decamillionaires in the United States. There's only like 813 billionaires. There's a few thousand millionaires. Like, this will not happen to you. Just don't break the law or exploit tax loopholes or try and screw the government out of what they're legally owed, and you will be just fine. Thanks for watching.